Hi everyone and welcome to Voice with Julia. Today we're going to talk about the relaxed tongue and what that really means.
Voice with Julia. Change your voice. Change your life.
I'm sure you've all heard the phrase, just sing with a relaxed tongue or relax your tongue. But that can be a bit of a misnomer if your relaxed position is not optimal. It's kind of like if you told somebody who sat in front of the TV and played video games all day, oh, stand up and stand with a relaxed posture. Well, they might stand something like this. And we all know that that's not ideal, right? So it's the same thing with the tongue. When you hear the words relax your tongue, if you're not taught what actual correct motion is of the tongue when singing, then that cue of relax can throw you off a bit. If you think about the tongue, it's made up of what we see, which is the tip, the middle part of the tongue, and then the huge part of the tongue that we cannot see is the base. And that connects all the way down here underneath the chin. And this is the part that can wreak havoc on our singing if we're not careful. So I want you to all try a little test with me. You're going to take your thumb and push it underneath your chin. And I want you to try to push your thumb away with your tongue, like this. You feel that? Do you feel that moving? Now some of you, depending on where you're coming from and you're singing, might feel a really pronounced pushing. I've worked really hard to retrain my tongue, so I feel that I really have to work it to make it push down now. Why I want you to feel that and understand where you're coming from with that is because that is going to be something that we want to avoid at all costs in singing. So you might say, great, I'll just be able to sing and make sure that this is nice and soft. But then what happens is maybe you go to sing and you go, oh, and you push down right there. Oh, nope. You want to avoid that, okay? So there's going to be a bit of a learning curve as you're trying to fix all of this, because you're going to have to maybe sing with your hand right under here to check that tongue position. But there are things that you can do that can actually aid you in achieving this relaxed tongue posture when singing. One of the most important key pieces of information is where the tongue should be in your mouth when you are singing. And everybody's tongue is shaped slightly differently. Some people's are longer, some people's are shorter. But I'm going to give a very general, and this is not too radical of an opinion here about where the tongue should be when you're singing. The back of the tongue, the part that you can see, all right, back there, should be up. And depending on how you feel things in your mouth, should be up quite high. I'm sure some of you have heard of singing in the NG position, like hum, hum, hum. Now what might have happened, I'm recalling my training early on in high school. I remember we would do these NG exercises and I would always get confused because as I started getting up towards my second passaggio, I couldn't keep my tongue up there. And no one ever told me that I had to. So I would just release my tongue down. But the real truth was that I couldn't make that pitch unless I retracted my tongue and helped the phonatory mechanism. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to practice that NG. You might start getting higher and you might say, I can't do this. You need to find a way to do it. So you might start to feel pressure here, and that is okay. And how that translates is when you open that to a full sound, you're going to just basically take the tongue and move it about that much, like a couple millimeters. that is hard because the tongue, if you are not used to that position, might want to go and pull down, and that's what you want to avoid. So as you work on this, please be advised that your tongue is going to yell at you, kicking and screaming. It may not like this position. And that is where you know you have to work, because it is essential for a free functioning larynx to get that tongue out of the back of the throat so that the larynx and all of these intrinsic muscles can do its job and we don't have the root of the tongue bunched up in the back of our throat. So it's going to take some patience, but I encourage you to really work with this NG position of the back of the tongue. And this will help you keep this base relaxed. So if you practice, you can check and you can see that there's a relationship between this lifting, the back of the tongue lifting, and the root being free. So try that out this week, and I would love to hear your thoughts and your experiences and how you feel you're doing with the tongue, because it can feel like a struggle, and that is okay. It should feel like a struggle, especially if you are habitually retracted, meaning that the tongue either sits flat in the mouth or likes to even go downward, okay? So this may feel like an uphill battle, and you may think that I'm crazy and say, like, this woman does not know what she's talking about, but I can tell you there are some things I don't know, but this is one thing I know absolutely. The tongue must be trained to sit up higher in the mouth than probably a lot of people are used to. That's going to give you yourself, your sound, a perception of being very nasal, being very forward. But we're not going to be forcing it there. It's just going to make that sound kind of sound a little bit more metallic and have that presence. So that might also be a reason why it's hard to achieve this tongue position, because our own internal aesthetic ear is fighting against what our function is doing. So we need to make sure, it's like going skydiving, right? You would not just jump out of the plane without any instruction. You're going to be given very precise instructions. And that's what I want to do here. I want to explain to you about this aesthetic expectation. If you're expecting to hear a bloomy sound inside your head, it's not going to be bloomy and beautiful and round out there. It might sound kind of muffled, okay? I'm not going to say it's going to sound squealy, but it probably will sound muffled out there. And as you go along and sing in that position, you're going to really cause these muscles to become tense, overworked, and then these intrinsic muscles in the larynx get weak and they're not doing their jobs. So this is really like a snowball effect. It starts with the ear. If you know you're supposed to hear this position that we achieve with the NG, then you can start to work from that point. Keep in mind, as you do this with the NG and as you get higher, you need to stay in the head tone. So if you really feel like you're bringing up the chest mechanism, that's going to inhibit that function as well and cause you to want to retract the tongue. Okay? So let me know how this worked for you, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. And I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel for lots of amazing vocal tips, interviews, and inside access to everything voice related. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.